The Reckoning. In the vast expanse of the Andromeda Milky Way coalition, peace had reigned for over 3 centuries. The great powers, the crystalline Vex Imperium, the hive-mind Morcani Collective, and the gaseous Zephyrian Dominion, had divided the known universe between them, establishing what they called the Eternal Concordat. Lesser species were permitted to exist under their protection, provided they contributed resources, technology, or military service to their designated overlords. It was not freedom, but it was stability, and for countless beings across 2 galaxies, that was enough. Humans, once among the most promising species of the Milky Way, had been relegated to the status of a protected minor race after the subjugation wars of 2278. Their colonies were limited to a handful of resource-poor systems, their military dismantled, their technology development strictly regulated. Earth itself remained under Vex occupation, a constant reminder of humanity's defeat and subsequent humiliation. For most aliens, humans were just another failed species that had reached too far, too fast. Their ambition had been checked, their potential contained. They were considered a footnote in galactic history, dangerous enough to warrant monitoring, but ultimately inconsequential. That perception changed on what would later be called the Day of Emergence. The first sign came from a remote monitoring station at the edge of the Cygnus Void, a region of space avoided by most travelers due to strange gravitational anomalies. The station, manned by a skeleton crew of Morcani drones, detected an energy signature unlike anything registered in Coalition databases. Before the drones could complete their analysis, the signature vanished, only to reappear closer to Coalition space. Unknown vessel detected. The automated warning systems blared across Coalition communication channels. Profile does not match any known design. Maraz Vexler, Supreme Commander of the Vex Imperium's 3rd Fleet, received the alert while overseeing mining operations in the Terran system, what humans still called the Solar System. The crystalline being's facets shimmered with irritation as the report interrupted his inspection. "Send a scout squadron to investigate," he ordered, dismissing the matter as a probable sensor malfunction or perhaps an unregistered merchant vessel, and increase surveillance on the human habitats. Their quarterly tribute is already late. The scout squadron, comprised of 5 Vex light cruisers, never returned. 7 hours later, as Maraz was preparing to dispatch a larger force, a massive vessel emerged from the darkness of space, its silhouette blotting out the stars behind it as it approached the Terran system. The ship's design was unlike anything in the Coalition archives, sleek yet angular, with a hull that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Most disturbing was the complete absence of energy readings from its exterior, despite its obvious massive propulsion capabilities. The vessel was approximately 15 kilometers in length, dwarfing even the largest Vex dreadnoughts. Its surface bore no insignia or markings except for a single word emblazoned across its bow in an ancient human language. Nemesis. "Attention Vex command vessel," came a transmission in perfect Imperial Vex dialect. "This is Captain Ilara Frost of the Earth Independence vessel Nemesis. Your presence in human space is a violation of our sovereignty. You have 30 minutes to evacuate all Vex personnel from this system, or face immediate consequences." The message was transmitted not just to Maraz's command ship, but to every communication device in the system, including the heavily restricted networks used by human laborers. The effect was immediate. Riots erupted in the mining colonies on Mars and in the orbital habitats around Jupiter. Even on the heavily guarded Earth, there were reports of unrest. Maraz, like most Vex commanders, was not accustomed to being threatened. The Vex had not lost a major military engagement in over 500 years. "Transmit to the intruder," he ordered, his crystalline form pulsating with indignation. "Human vessel, power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Your actions constitute high treason against the Coalition. Surrender now, and your crew may be spared." There was no response from the Nemesis. Instead, the massive ship began to move toward the Vex fleet with deliberate slowness, as if giving them time to reconsider. Maraz, unable to comprehend the audacity of a single human vessel challenging an entire Vex battle group, gave the order to attack. All ships target the human vessel and fire at will. I want that thing reduced to atoms. The Vex fleet, consisting of 3 heavy battle cruisers and their support vessels, unleashed a devastating barrage of plasma torpedoes and quantum disruptors, enough firepower to obliterate a small moon. The weapons impacted the Nemesis in a blinding flash that momentarily overloaded the optical sensors of the Vex ships. When the sensors cleared, the Nemesis was still there, completely untouched. "Impossible," Mares whispered, his voice echoing through the command crystal of his flagship. "Scan again." Nothing could withstand that level of bombardment. Before his crew could comply, the Nemesis responded. There was no visible weapons discharge, no energy buildup, no warning at all. One moment, the Vex support ships were there. The next, they simply ceased to exist, leaving behind nothing but rapidly dispersing clouds of particles. "Your time is up, Commander Mares," came Captain Frost's voice again, somehow projecting directly into Mares's private command frequency. "I gave you the opportunity to leave peacefully. That opportunity has expired." What followed was not a battle but a massacre. The Nemesis moved through the Vex fleet with terrifying precision, destroying ship after ship without any discernible weapon discharge. It was as if reality itself was being selectively erased wherever the Nemesis directed its attention. Mares, faced with the total destruction of his fleet, did something no Vex commander had done in generations. He attempted to retreat. "All remaining vessels, emergency translocation. Get word to the Imperium. This is." His transmission cut off as his flagship disintegrated around him, leaving nothing but silence and the imposing silhouette of the Nemesis against the backdrop of Earth. News of the Vex fleet's destruction spread across Coalition space at transluminal speeds. For the first time in centuries, the 3 great powers faced a threat they couldn't immediately comprehend or counter. Emergency meetings were convened, ancient defense protocols were activated, and throughout 2 galaxies, military assets were mobilized toward the Terran system. On Earth, humans emerged from their habitations to see the sky cleared of Vex occupation ships for the first time in generations. And in orbit above them, the Nemesis stood watch, a dark guardian that had appeared from nowhere to rewrite the balance of power in the galaxy. As Coalition forces gathered for a counterattack, the Nemesis remained in Earth orbit, broadcasting a simple message on all frequencies. The era of human subjugation is over. Any attempt to reestablish control over human territories will be met with the same response delivered to the Third Fleet. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Captain Elara Frost stood before a viewport, gazing down at the blue-green world that humanity had been denied for so long. Unlike the sterile, utilitarian designs of Coalition vessels, the bridge of the Nemesis combined advanced technology with distinctly human aesthetics: warm lighting, ergonomic stations, and even plants growing in recessed alcoves. "Status report," Frost said, her voice calm despite the enormity of what they had just accomplished. A tall man with dark skin and eyes that reflected the stars approached her side. "Ship integrity at 100%, Captain. Energy reserves at 98.7%. The Vex have been completely eliminated from the system, and Coalition reinforcements are at least 12 hours away." Frost nodded, her expression unreadable as she studied Earth below. She was not what most would expect of a warrior who had just destroyed one of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy, rather than the battle-hardened veteran one might imagine. Frost appeared young, no more than 30 Earth years, with close-cropped silver hair and eyes of such a pale blue they seemed almost translucent. Her uniform was simple, a black flight suit with no rank insignia except for a small golden phoenix emblem on her collar. "Begin Phase 2, Commander Chen," she said after a moment. "Deploy the liberation modules to all human settlements in system. Prioritize medical aid and communication restoration." "And the Coalition response?" Chen asked, his hand already moving to implement her orders on a holographic interface. "They'll come," Frost said, turning away from the viewport. And when they do, they'll learn what we've spent the last 100 years preparing to teach them. As she walked toward the center of the bridge, the lighting shifted subtly, revealing more of the chamber's details. The bridge crew, all human, worked with quiet efficiency at stations arranged in concentric circles around a central platform. But what was most striking was what wasn't there. No visible weapons controls, no tactical displays, nothing that would indicate how this vessel had just obliterated a fleet of the most advanced warships in the known universe. A futuristic battlefield scene with a heavily armored human super soldier standing at the center, wearing sleek black power armor with a glowing blue visor. Behind the soldier looms an enormous, terrifying alien creature with burning red eyes and spiked appendages, exuding a menacing presence. Alien fighter ships swarm the sky, while human dropships deploy troops onto a fiery, war-torn battlefield. Explosions and energy blasts light up the ground, as human soldiers armed with advanced weaponry engage the alien forces. A massive planet and starscape are visible in the background, adding to the epic, high-stakes atmosphere of the intergalactic conflict. The ultimatum. The response from the Coalition was swift and overwhelming. Within 48 hours of the Third Fleet's destruction, the largest military force ever assembled in the history of interstellar civilization converged on the borders of the Terran system. Over 3,000 warships from the three dominant powers, the crystalline Vex Imperium, the hive-mind Morcani Collective, and the gaseous Zephyrian Dominion, formed a blockade around the system's heliopause, preparing for what they believed would be a decisive strike against a dangerous, but ultimately doomed rebellion. Leading this unprecedented armada was High Admiral Zilith of the Zephyrian Dominion, whose military genius had crushed the last great challenge to Coalition authority, the Proxima Uprising, nearly a century ago. Zilith's gaseous form swirled with violent purpose within his command sphere as he addressed the assembled fleet commanders via quantum entanglement. "We face a single human vessel," his translated voice resonated through the communication networks. "Powerful, yes, but not invincible. Our analysis of the Third Fleet's destruction suggests the human ship employs some form of localized reality manipulation, impressive technology, but one with clear operational limitations. It cannot engage multiple targets simultaneously across vast distances. We will exploit this limitation." The plan was elegant in its brutality. A synchronized attack from all directions, overwhelming the Nemesis with sheer numbers while specialized Morcani nullifier ships worked to disrupt whatever exotic energy source powered the human vessel. Meanwhile, Vex infiltrators would attempt to board the Nemesis, hoping to capture its technology intact. "The humans have always been clever," Zilith concluded, his form pulsating with cold confidence. "But they have never understood the fundamental truth of galactic power. One species cannot stand against the united might of many. By the cycle's end, this Nemesis will be a laboratory specimen, and human resistance will once again be relegated to historical footnotes." As the Coalition forces prepared their assault, the Nemesis remained in Earth orbit, seemingly oblivious to the gathering storm. Millions of humans on Earth and across the colonies within the Terran system celebrated their sudden freedom, even as Coalition loyalists warned of the retribution to come. On the Nemesis, Captain Ilara Frost received the reports of the Coalition's movements with the calm detachment that had become her trademark. The bridge was quiet. The crew focused on their tasks with the quiet efficiency of those who had trained together for years. "They've assembled quite the welcoming committee," Commander Chen noted, studying the holographic display showing the Coalition forces. 3,142 warships at last count, plus support vessels. Frost nodded, her pale eyes reflecting the glow of the tactical displays. "As expected. They can't afford to show restraint, not after what happened to the Third Fleet. Too many watching eyes across too many worlds." "The emergence protocols are complete," reported Lieutenant Kessler from the communication station. "All human settlements in system have received medical supplies and defensive measures. The quantum entanglement network is online. Earth can now communicate with the outer colonies without coalition monitoring for the first time in centuries. And the cradle? Frost asked, her voice betraying the slightest hint of tension. Secure and operational, Captain, Chen confirmed. The Morcani mining outpost on Io never knew what was beneath their feet all these years. Frost allowed herself a small smile. Then we're ready for Phase 3. She turned to address the entire bridge crew. The Coalition believes they're hunting a single rogue warship. It's time to show them how wrong they are. As if in response to her words, the space around the Terran system began to change. At first, the Coalition sensors detected only small anomalies. Brief energy fluctuations at the system's edge, quickly dismissed as sensor ghosts or natural phenomena. But the anomalies grew stronger, more persistent, until they could no longer be ignored. On the command ship of the Coalition Armada, High Admiral Zillith received the reports with increasing alarm. What do you mean? The space is changing. Explain in terms that make sense. The Vex science officer's crystalline form vibrated with distress. The fabric of space-time around the Terran system is hardening. There's no better term in any of our languages. It's as if reality itself is being reinforced, becoming more resistant to external manipulation. Is it a weapon? A shield? Zillith demanded. Neither, Admiral, the scientist replied. Based on our readings, it appears to be a fundamental alteration of physical constants within a defined region. The effect continues to expand outward from Earth at approximately 1 astronomical unit per hour. Before Zillith could respond, new alarms sounded throughout the command sphere. Multiple contacts emerging within the Terran system, reported the sensor officer. They're appearing from nowhere. No hyperspace signatures, no translocation fields. The tactical display showed it clearly, dozens, then hundreds of new vessels appearing throughout the Terran system. Unlike the dark, imposing form of the Nemesis, these ships were smaller, more varied in design, but all bearing the same insignia. A golden phoenix rising from flames. Impossible, Zillith whispered, his gaseous form contracting in shock. There are no human shipyards capable of producing a fleet of this size. We've monitored their industry for centuries. In the heart of the Terran system, the Nemesis began to move away from Earth, accelerating toward the edge of the system where the Coalition Armada waited. As it moved, the mysterious new fleet formed up around it in a perfect defensive formation, creating an advancing wall of human warships where none should exist. Throughout the Coalition blockade, commanders frantically reported the impossible sight. A human battle fleet materializing from nowhere, now advancing toward their position with deliberate precision. On the Nemesis, Captain Frost stood at the center of the bridge, watching as her plan unfolded. "Open a channel to the Coalition flagship," she ordered. "Let's offer them one last chance to avoid what comes next." The face that appeared on the Coalition command ship's communication screen was not what Zillith had expected. Human military leaders were typically older males, hardened by decades of fighting in the resource wars that had preceded their subjugation. Captain Ilara Frost looked more like a scholar than a warrior, her youthful features betraying no hint of the savagery that had destroyed the Third Fleet. "High Admiral Zillith," she greeted him, her voice calm and measured. "I studied your campaigns extensively. The Proxima uprising, the Tav City pacification. Brilliant strategies, even if they were directed against civilian populations." Zillith's translator converted his atmospheric fluctuations into audible speech. "You speak as if we are equals, human. Your stolen technology and surprise tactics have granted you a temporary advantage, nothing more. Surrender now, and some of your species might be permitted to survive what comes next." Frost's expression remained unchanged. "This isn't stolen technology, Admiral. It's ours, humanity's. Developed in secret over the century, you thought us broken and contained." She paused, studying him through the view screen. "And I'm not here to negotiate our surrender, but to inform you of a new reality." At her signal, the view screen split to show additional feeds, Images of coalition outposts and military installations throughout both galaxies, each now shadowed by human vessels identical to those in the Terran system. The Nemesis was never alone, Admiral. Frost continued as Zilith's gaseous form churned with shock. It was simply the first to reveal itself. While your civilizations believed humans contained and subjugated, we were building, preparing, waiting for the right moment. Right now, over 5,000 human warships are positioned at strategic locations across Coalition space. Each one carries the same capabilities as the Nemesis. Impossible, Zilith hissed. We would have detected. How? Frost interrupted. With the same sensor technology that can't explain what the Nemesis did to the Third Fleet. With monitoring systems that still can't detect our ships until we choose to reveal them. She shook her head. You've had centuries to study humans, Admiral, yet you never truly understood us. Our greatest strength isn't our technology or our adaptability. It's our patience. The implications of her words sent shockwaves through the Coalition command structure. If what she claimed was true, if humans had somehow developed and hidden an entire battle fleet capable of appearing anywhere without warning, then the strategic balance of power that had maintained the Coalition for centuries was suddenly, catastrophically obsolete. What do you want? Zilith asked, his normally confident tone now hesitant. The same thing we've always wanted, Frost replied. Freedom, independence, the right to determine our own future without Coalition oversight or interference. Her eyes hardened slightly, and recognition of what your civilizations took from us. As she spoke, the human fleet continued its advance toward the Coalition blockade, its formation tightening as it approached weapons range. Behind them, the strange space-time anomaly expanded outward, encompassing more of the Terran system with each passing moment. You have 1 hour to withdraw all Coalition forces from the Terran system, Frost continued. Following that, you will have 72 hours to evacuate all Coalition military and administrative personnel from what we have designated as reclaimed human space, the territories outlined in the data package now being transmitted to your ship. The data appeared on Zilith's command displays, showing a region encompassing nearly 15% of the Coalition's total territory, including some of its most valuable resource worlds and strategic positions. This is extortion, Zilith protested. You cannot simply redraw the political boundaries of 2 galaxies at gunpoint. Can't we? Frost asked, raising an eyebrow. Isn't that precisely how the Coalition was formed? How humanity was relegated to protected minor status after the subjugation wars? Her voice remained level, but there was steel beneath the calm. The difference is that we're giving you a choice, Admiral. The Coalition can recognize our sovereignty and withdraw peacefully, or she let the alternative hang in the silence between them. For the first time in his long military career, High Admiral Zilith faced an opponent he could not confidently defeat. His sensors showed the human fleet, over 300 vessels now, continuing its inexorable advance toward his position. Behind them, the anomalous space-time hardening made any form of faster-than-light travel into the Terran system impossible, effectively cutting it off from the rest of the galaxy except through conventional space. I must confer with the Coalition Council, Zilith finally said, trying to maintain some semblance of dignity. Of course, Frost nodded. 1 hour, Admiral, not a moment more. As the communication ended, Zilith immediately opened a secure channel to the highest echelons of the Coalition leadership. The conversation that followed was the most contentious in Coalition history, with the 3 dominant species divided on how to respond to this unprecedented human challenge. The Vex Imperium advocated immediate all-out attack, arguing that human audacity could not go unanswered regardless of the potential losses. The Morcani Collective, more pragmatic, suggested a strategic withdrawal to assess the true extent of human capabilities before committing to conflict. The Zephyrian Dominion found itself caught between these positions, torn between military tradition and the realistic assessment that they faced an enemy with unknown and potentially overwhelming advantages. In the end, The decision came down to a single, uncomfortable truth. The coalition could not risk a war it did not understand against an enemy who seemed to operate outside the established rules of physics and strategy. 57 minutes after Captain Frost's ultimatum, the coalition armada began to withdraw from the Terran system's edge, their massive engines flaring as they retreated into the darkness of interstellar space. On the bridge of the Nemesis, the crew watched in silence as the enemy fleet departed. There was no cheering, no celebration, only the quiet satisfaction of those who had planned for this moment through decades of secret preparation. They're withdrawing to regroup, not surrendering, Commander Chen observed, standing beside Captain Frost at the main viewport. This isn't over. No, Frost agreed, her eyes following the retreating ships. But the rules have changed. For the first time since the subjugation, they're afraid of us. She turned to face her second-in-command, allowing herself a genuine smile. And fear is a powerful first step toward respect. As the last coalition vessels disappeared from normal space, Captain Frost activated the ship-wide communication system. Throughout the Nemesis and across the newly revealed human fleet, her voice reached every crew member, every soldier, every scientist who had worked in secret for this day. Phase 3 is complete, she announced. The coalition has withdrawn from Terran space and will soon begin evacuating the territories we've claimed. But our work is far from finished. For centuries, humanity was told our place in the universe was to serve, to submit, to accept limitation. Today, we've shown the galaxy a different truth, that humanity will never again kneel before those who sought to contain us. She paused, her gaze sweeping over her bridge crew before returning to the starfield visible through the viewport. What we've built isn't just a fleet or a weapon. It's a future where humanity stands equal among the stars, neither conqueror nor conquered. The path ahead won't be easy. The coalition won't accept this new reality without resistance. But make no mistake, the age of human subjugation is over. Not because we destroy our oppressors, but because we've shown them something they never expected from us after centuries of bondage. Her voice grew softer, yet somehow more intense. We've shown them mercy, and if they force our hand again, we'll show them why that mercy was a gift they should have treasured. Across the Terran system and beyond, on worlds that had known only coalition rule for generations, humans emerged from hiding, from resistance cells, from lives of quiet servitude. The quantum entanglement network, hidden for decades beneath coalition surveillance, now carried Captain Frost's words to every human settlement across 2 galaxies. The Nemesis is not just a ship, she told them. It's a promise we made to ourselves in our darkest hour, that humanity would rise again, not through conquest or cruelty, but through perseverance, ingenuity, and the unyielding belief that we deserve to forge our own destiny among the stars. As her words reached billions of human ears, something awakened that the coalition had spent centuries trying to extinguish: hope. Not just for freedom from oppression, but for a future where humanity could finally fulfill the potential that had made the coalition fear them enough to subjugate them in the first place. The age of human vengeance had begun. But what would follow might be something far more revolutionary: the age of human ascendance. In the void between worlds, the Nemesis and its fleet continued their vigilant watch as the stars turned slowly overhead, indifferent to the monumental shift in power that had just occurred. The galaxy would never be the same again, and neither would humanity.